So there are only a few things which we really complain about, especially in America. There are there are only a few things that we consistently and regularly complain about. One of which is the government, but we're not going to be talking about that today. Hello there. I'm David Bolander, and you guys are listening to Random Radio. And in case you couldn't tell, this episode we're going to be talking about the economy. So just sit back and relax. I hope you guys have been having a good week a good couple weeks. But yeah, sit back and relax and enjoy the show. So, a couple. So, let's start at the beginning here, Kev. So, I went to a board meeting for my high school, which has been trying to get a bond for the past I don't know. It's ran for this bond like three times, and we've been like 5% short on the vote, and we've been just kind of running a little bit under budget for our entire district. We need new elementary schools. We need to remodel both of our high schools. We actually need to build a new high school to replace our older one because we are the high school that I'm currently attending is at 140% capacity, which is absolutely insane. If you wouldn't imagine an extra 40%, which by the way, that's almost an extra half of what it's supposed to hold at maximum capacity, you know? You wouldn't imagine that would be a whole lot more, but it is. It's noticeable. You go through the halls and so the stairwells, okay? The stairwells in that school are just so tight, especially during the busy hours. And a couple of YouTubers actually went through the last time we tried to pass this bond, and they were like, "Yeah, if you yeah, this is one of the worst setup high school, or not the worst setup, but it's one of the smaller high schools in the nation, and just because they we haven't had the money to really expand on it. Not that we have the land around us to expand on it, but you know." But anyway, this I went to this board meeting and they were talking about a whole bunch about economic stuff and just what the school could do as other options rather than a bond, and we can do all sorts of other things like levies and leasing land and stuff like that. But anyway, you guys probably didn't come here for an entire economic lesson, but yeah, that's actually what started this. And then right after we went to that board meeting, I was talking to my mom, and we were talking about some of the economic problems with the U.S. and about how basically our entire economic system since the 1920s has been basically spend, 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 and don't worry about your debt because it doesn't matter, even though it does. you know, I can't remember how many trillions of dollars the U.S. is in debt now, but it's absolutely insane. And so I actually had a couple ideas, and with that debt going up, then we have to kind of print our own money, lots more money, which then increases inflation like crazy because we don't actually have the resources that can back up said money, and so the inflation skyrockets when we start printing money, which I'm assuming we've been doing since the 1920s, probably even before that. But printing money that we don't actually have, it's kind of a problem. And but yeah, I had two main ideas for this, for our capitalistic economic system, right? I had two big ideas on it. The first, so my first idea has to do with inflation, and it's probably a really dumb idea, and it would take a lot of work to do. But something that I would find interesting is that if the entire world, at least the capitalistic part of the world, basically just said, or even just the U.S., basically said, so there are actually two things that you can do for inflation. First thing is this: everybody can just write down or store somewhere, yes, this is the prices that we have right now. Send it off to the government. It gets stored in a very secure data location, right? And then basically every maybe 5 years or so, maybe even less than that, we revert prices back to that point And you don't even have to worry about wages, right? And it's just like, okay, every 5 years, then it just reverts back, and everybody can still get rich, right? Hence, stopping inflation and allowing the U.S. to actually build up money rather than just spending it. I think that would be interesting, but it would take a lot of effort, especially on like the entire world would have to do it, and I'm sure that the majority of people are not willing to do that. but And it would undoubtedly be taken advantage of in some way or another that I can't see right now. But but yeah, that was one of my first ideas. My second idea that has to do with inflation is basically increasing wages for everybody, like in line with inflation, right? Because what's going on right now is that we're increasing the starting wage right now. Like it used to be the minimum wage, even just like 5 years ago. Actually, less than that probably was $7.50. That was the minimum wage. Nowadays, I can't even remember what it is, but I think it's like $10 minimum wage. I can't even remember, but because inflation has been skyrocketing lately over the past couple of years, then it's been insane. It's been absolutely insane. But the problem with it is that, like, normally then you'd say, oh yeah, so they're increasing wages to to take effect with inflation. The only problem is they're not increasing existing people's pay, or like existing workers in a company's pay. They're not increasing that pay um, accordingly. Like they're increasing it a little bit, but not enough to actually count for anything, right? And so that means everybody just gets poorer and poorer and poorer if if you can't climb the social ladder fast enough, right? Or the corporate ladder fast enough. If you can't climb that fast enough, then you're just kind of done for, and you're just getting poorer and poorer and poorer, and it's just crazy. But my fix to that, it would be actually increasing everybody's wages at a decent rate, or at the rate that inflation is going, at least, just to say, hey, we're actually doing something about this, you know? I that's my big thing, is just, that's basically the main thing. Um, but yeah, and then my last idea to deal with the American economic system is, and especially this goes for the national debt, um, is, so you know how, like, so the entire point of the American economic system is basically we have these corporations, and we have, like, the corporations are run by the people, right? And that's how the U.S. is supposed to make money. Well, unfortunately, all these big corporations keep the money for themselves so they can expand themselves, which makes sense. If you're not going to actively enforce, hey, you guys need to give us 100% or like 90% of your money once you reach a certain net gain, right? Then the US just kind of doesn't get any extra money. Like, yeah, they get property taxes and sales taxes and other stuff like that, but that mostly goes to like the states, right? The states and what they need to do rather than the US as a nation. Hence our national debt going sky high, and we haven't been out of debt. I don't think we've ever been out of debt. Literally, we were in debt to the French when we started the revolution, right? Like, we said, oh yeah, basically we're taking a loan from the French so they will support us in the revolution, and then we didn't have any way to really pay it off. And we got even more and more and more in debt. And then especially that happened, uh, 1930s on. Especially those times, then the national debt has gone insane. But one of my thoughts was, hey, we have these big, massive corporations, which is supposed to be our main source of funding, right? Why don't we make those big corporations, maybe even just say like, oh yeah, by the end of like 10 or 5 or 10 years, then you need to have given us this much money based off of what you made during this year, right? Almost set it up like a normal tax, but be like, like make it so that the corporation can still stand functionally, but once you reach certain milestones, then you need to give the actual government more money so that we can actually afford more things, which means, more rights. And I mean, from like I was talking to my mom about this, and she said, and she was saying like, yeah, well, what's funny is that in other countries like Ireland and London, and or London isn't a country, but Britain, right? Like you talk about all those places, and like like a lot of things are a lot lower priced, right? Especially like housing and stuff like that, or even or even you go to Canada and you see that healthcare is pretty nice. Healthcare is paid for. Um, Free healthcare is amazing, but then other things go straight up, and that just kind of restricts more rights. And so I'd say the U.S. currently has one of the better systems where we're like, okay, you guys can still make your own, you guys can still make your own companies, you guys can still do whatever you want, but you have to pay extra on lots of stuff, you know? And so I guess that what I'm trying to say is, in order for us to get out of debt, one, we need to get all these countries who owe debt to us to actually start paying off that debt. And two, then we need to actually like start charging our corporations, because our corporations are the biggest money makers in the US, right? All those massive corporations like Amazon, like they're making insane amounts of money. And it's not like they're not using it to expand or anything. It's like they're still using the money and they're still donating the money, but I mean like the government kind of needs the money, and we would probably already be well into space by now. Actually, probably not, but I mean, a lot of things rely on national funding, and when you don't have enough national funding, then that stuff kind of gets shut down, which is a problem for a lot of people. And I don't know. These are some of my ideas, okay, for our economy. They probably don't work nearly as well as I want them to, because I haven't even taken high school economics yet. But, I think that it would be a decent idea, at least, to try out, or, something. you know. But yeah, by the way, if you guys have any interesting ideas for even not interesting ideas, I don't really care if it's interesting or not, but if you guys have any ideas for how you guys would like to fix the United States economic system so that we can actually get out of debt, let me know in the comments of this video, and I'll probably put like a questionnaire on Spotify. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, which I know that that's where a lot of my viewers come from, just sorry, bud. Sorry, man. There's not a whole lot I can do because I haven't done a whole lot with Apple Podcasts. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good rest of your couple weeks until you guys hear me again, I guess. And I would love to hear your guys' ideas in the comments down below. So, have a good time. Have a good couple weeks, and be safe. Be safe in these winter months. Or unless it's not winter where you are. Like if you're in Africa, it's probably not winter right about now. But if it's winter where you are, be safe. If you're driving in the snow and ice, drive like 5 to 10 below the speed limit consistently, because you never know where black ice is. Like, no joke, I've found myself slipping and sliding all over the roads lately. And yeah, just be safe, have fun, be safe. Yeah, have a good time. And I guess I will see. I won't see you guys. I'll talk to you guys in another 2 weeks. So, yeah, I hope you guys had a good time, and you guys have been listening to Random Radio. Thank you guys for listening.